Hearings officer going to be here in person?
I'm here.
No,
Oh, that's you.
It's me.
Okay. So we really are meeting.
On my screen, at least from my perspective.
I see it a little bit, yeah.
They've got the top of your head chopped off.
There you go.
Thanks a lot. My best view. Ms. Stewart, are you there?
I am. We can see and hear you, hearings officer.
Okay, great. What I'm curious about is who else is there just before we get started. Then we should go on the record if we're not already.
We have the appellants in person. So far, there are only in-person attendees, and we have, it looks like 4 people on Zoom.
Okay, and is the applicant on Zoom, as you can tell?
Their attorney is.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate it. Are you ready to get started?
We are.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Frank. We will go on the record now. It's just about 1:30 p.m. on April 10th, 2025. This is the hearing scheduled for case numbers 247-2400346-LR and 247-2500084. There should be 4 zeros and then a -8. As I indicated, my name is Greg Frank. I am the hearings officer in this matter. Before we turn to the particulars of the hearing, I would like to turn things over to Deschutes County Planner, Ms. Stewart, to describe how this process is going to work today, at least logistically. Ms. Stewart.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name's Audrey Stewart, and I'm an associate planner with the Deschutes County Planning Division. The item before the hearings officer is an appeal of a staff decision approving a lot of record verification for the subject property.
Did you want to discuss a request for a continuance at this time?
I would. So prior to today's hearing, the applicant requested a continuance of the hearing. The county's procedures ordinance requires today's hearing to be opened, and if desired, anyone can testify. Section 2224140A of Deschutes County's procedure ordinance states an applicant is entitled to a continuance if they request it prior to the initial hearing. Hearings Officer Frank will now decide whether or not to grant the continuance request.
All right, and just for full disclosure, Ms. Stewart has coordinated with me the logistics of this particular hearing, which include the scheduling and giving me information so I can look at the record. We have had communication. She also forwards, as to all hearings officers, a proposed script that we would run through in order to make this as efficient as possible a process. I'm going to modify her script just ever so slightly. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to get this out of the way. And that is whether or not I have any bias or conflicts of interest. And I'd just like to make clear to those of you who are present that I am a hearings officer. I'm a hearings officer for a number of jurisdictions, one of which is Deschutes County. And because I'm on a contract as a hearings officer, in fact, I get paid for doing this job. I don't get paid for any particular result, whether it's for appellants or applicants or opposition or whoever you are. I get paid because I'm supposed to follow the relevant laws and rules in the case, and I'm supposed to listen to the testimony and review the record and make a decision in the case with respect to all of the above, the people's testimony, the people's documents, and the laws and rules that are relevant. I can tell you that I do not know the applicant. I do not know the appellant. at least by name. And I have in fact reviewed the record ever so briefly. And I will indicate to you that I have done prior hearings with Deschutes County, including at least one hearing with Ms. Stewart. And those are my disclosures. I do not believe I have any personal stake or interest or bias or conflict in this case. I believe that I can make an objective decision in this case. At this time, and as I indicated, I'm a little bit off script, but I want to make sure. Ms. Stewart, would you please determine, and I'm going to ask the following question, if there's anyone who wishes to testify with respect only to whether or not I can continue to hear this case. In other words, so does someone have an objection? And if you have an objection, I need you to be kind of specific about it, what you believe I will not be fair, or I have an interest in something that I'm not aware of, but I need to know those kind of things. So, Ms. Stewart, would you please ask the appellant who's in person if they have any objections that I continue to be the hearings officer in this case?
Thank you, hearings officer. We now have 3 people in person. For both in-person and Zoom attendees, please raise your hand if you have any testimony specifically directed at hearings officer Frank's statement.
Regarding Mr. Frank here?
Correct. So this is not general testimony specifically regarding his ability to serve as hearings officer.
My only comment there would be that we didn't know that he was going to be the hearings officer or who was going to be the hearings officer. So we certainly wouldn't have had any opportunity to look into Mr. Frank and determine whether he might have a problem or with us or us with him or anything. So
if you don't mind, if you come up here and speak into a microphone, the folks over Zoom will be able to hear you as well.
okay.
And I'd like the person to identify themselves for the record, please.
I'm having a hard time hearing actually everything myself.
I know, it's,
So if what we're asking for is, are there any objections to hearings officer Frank being the hearings officer?
Yeah, well, I would have to say that I don't have enough information to know whether to object or not.
So there's no objection.
So-
Should we just sit up here?
No,
Or-
fine.
Okay.
And so for the benefit of the hearings officer and everyone joining over Zoom, there was some discussion in the room, just that there weren't specific objections because there wasn't, I guess, background knowledge on the hearings officer.
Yeah, we weren't notified who the hearings officer might be or anything or,
but we don't personally know him.
yeah. Seems like a fine gentleman.
Okay, there are no specific objections in the room, and I'm not seeing any Zoom attendees who are raising their hand right now.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. And the gentleman who just indicated that he doesn't know me and doesn't know of me is exactly what I was trying to explain. My job is to be objective. It is preferable that it makes it a lot easier to be objective if in fact I don't know the people that are involved in the case. Therefore, because I don't want any personal relationships, either financial, personal, or social. And I don't believe I have any of those. I believe that I'm qualified, and I'm going to find that I can continue to hear this case and ultimately reach a decision. Because there is a request for a continuance to the gentleman that has indicated that he doesn't know me and needs more information. There will be a continuance, and I will grant you an opportunity to have an objection to my hearing this case at the continued hearing. So that seems incredibly fair and makes your uncertainty should make it hopefully less uncertain in the future. So we will continue with this hearing, and I will continue to be the hearings officer. I just have one question, Ms. Stewart. Although I know that the code doesn't require it, did the applicant indicate why they were requesting a continuance?
They did, hearings officer. I uploaded an email from the applicant to the record. They indicated that they plan to apply for a lot of record verification for a neighboring tax lot that has very related deed history. Because a lot of the facts of that case would be similar. They said essentially they'd like that application processed and to know whether or not there will be an appeal, so that if there is an appeal, they can be consolidated into one appeal and hearing process. So that was, the applicant is on Zoom. They don't have their hand raised, but that's, I guess, a summary of the email they sent me.
That seems adequate to me. I'm going to grant the continuance in this case. And just so everyone is aware, there, from what I understand from Ms. Stewart, is there will be a new notice of hearing indicating the specific time and date of the continued hearing sent to each person, certainly, hopefully, that was entitled originally to notice, and anyone else who signs up or indicates to Ms. Stewart that they wish to know about the continued hearing. So at this point in time, there will be a continued hearing. Let me just explain to you ever so briefly that when we have a continued hearing, that means that whatever you were going to say today, which I wanted to listen to, you're going to be given an opportunity to speak at the continued hearing and say the very same thing. I've been doing this for almost 25 years, and there's one truism that I believe, and that is saying something more than once doesn't make it any more true, doesn't make it any less true, and doesn't help me decide. If you have quality information that relates to the relevant approval criteria, that's what's important. And if you say it once, that's great. If you put it in writing, I can assure you that anything and everything that's in the public record, I'm obligated to look at, to review. And if it's in writing, I will tell you that it's sometimes easier for me to go over and cogitate about, even more so than oral testimony. Doesn't mean the oral testimony is important, but I'm telling you that everyone will be given an opportunity to speak in the future at the continued hearing time and place. So with that, I'm going to ask, does anyone wish to testify today?
And hearings officer Frank, is it okay if I jump in with some details about the process for the continued hearing so that folks know kind of what that looks like?
Absolutely.
Thank you, hearings officer. So the date and time for the next hearing hasn't been set. Because the hearing is being continued to a date and time that hasn't been determined yet, staff will mail, as the hearings officer mentioned, there will be a new mailed notice of public hearing, as well as a new notice of public hearing published in the bulletin. The hearing will be held in the same location as today's hearing, which is the Barnes and Sawyer room. And you also can attend remotely or in person, and it will be the same Zoom link or dial-in number as today's hearing. And I'll turn it back over to the hearings officer.
Okay, and I'm going to just indicate my question or query is anyone wishing to testify today, fully understanding you'll have an opportunity to testify at the continued hearing.
I guess if I had I'd like to make one comment here, and that is that.
Okay, first of all, I don't know where you are. So
Sure.
Would you do me a favor once again, and first name, last name, and keep in mind that I may not be the perfect speller and so of names, and so if you spell your first name, last name, and then give us an address, please.
My name is Ronald Thompson, Ronald R. Thompson, THOMPSON. I live at 50910 Maston Road in Lapine. We live on our property, which is directly across the Little Deschutes River from the subject property of this lot of record matter here. I'm 76 years old. This property has been in my family since before I was born. So I have a lifelong history of knowledge specifically about these lands. They were all originally purchased as one lot by my uncle. and who later divided up these lots by a roll change. So I just wanted to make that point that I have a lot of knowledge about this situation. And that's really all I'd like to say today. I can
With-
remember.
With that said, sir, I look forward to your testimony at the continued hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wish to testify?
If anyone in the room or on Zoom would like to testify, please either raise your hand, or if you're dialing in over Zoom, dial *9. Hearings officer, we don't have anyone else who's raising their hand.
Okay, anything else we needed to do before I announce that we're continuing the hearing to a date uncertain?
No, I went over the procedure for that continued hearing, and I'm available if there are any questions. All parties will be notified. If you have additional testimony, you can either provide that to me as a hard copy or email it to me. My email address is available on the notice of public hearing, and it's audrey.stewart@deschutes.org. And that's, I believe, the end of my part, hearings officer.
Okay, I appreciate those comments, and I will just reiterate what I kind of said before is that I now am assigned to this case. I now will continue to hear this case, and and I will certainly know when the continued hearing is. But more importantly to you is that if you submit something into the public record, I will be checking the public record regularly. If I have your information in the record that I take a look at before the next hearing, before the continued hearing, that allows me to at least be aware of your concerns. And if it raises questions in my mind, if you in fact testify at that hearing, I will be happy to ask those questions and listen to your response. It is important. It is very important that each and every one of you who intend to testify or submit any documents into the record understand that my decisions aren't made because I like somebody or dislike somebody or think something's a great idea or not so good. My decisions are based on whether or not an applicant has submitted adequate information to satisfy each and every one of the relevant approval criteria in the case. And for those of you who are not land use lawyers, when I say you must show me information related to relevant approval criteria, all I'm saying is there are certain laws and rules, code sections that apply in each and every case, this one included. And if your testimony, if your documentation that you submit to me relates to those relevant laws or rules, then it's more likely than not that I will consider them very seriously. I can only consider what is relevant to those approval criteria or laws or rules. So with that in mind, I'm going to continue this hearing to a date uncertain. I look forward to testimony from each and every one of you, and I wish you the best day. Thank you. We'll close the hearing at this time.